recently had an issue about 3 months ago before we left Florida for our summer trip where our inverter was not working correctly. Through the help of one of our RV techs that we talk to and refer out from our business, he had said, you needed to check your breakers in the front compartment. We always knew that there was fuse panel, of course, inside your unit, usually running all your 12-volt items, those fuses, and then all your breakers for your major appliances inside. But we're unaware of the bus bar, if you want to call it, with breakers in your storage front area, which primarily what it does is it is the hub for your batteries, your inverters, your converters. Everything comes through there, your battery cutoff. So we were informed, we were having this issue with the inverter. He said, go ahead and check the breakers. They will go bad from time to time, and see if that's the issue. And so we did. We found that. Steve found that and found the breaker, went ahead and replaced it back when we were in North Carolina. And lo and behold, our inverter has been running perfect for the last couple months on the road. We have had zero problems with it. The good thing about finding that issue and being able to source it and then also know how to test it was when we actually were going into Washington, D.C. We were staying there at an RV park. We pulled in. Let me backtrack a little bit. We were noticing some weird issues, like our center slides, our opposing slides in our kitchen were not going out and in with fluid wise. They were they were stopping. I'd have to release the button and then press the button again, then they would continue to go out. And this has been kind of ongoing for a couple months, but we didn't really think of anything of it. Just figured maybe my finger slipped off the toggle and it wasn't engaged. Then recently, in the last few stops we would make, when we would take the jacks, either mostly putting them up, they would go up in increments. Normally they would just flow right up. And now they weren't. They were going up an inch or two at a time, stopping an inch or two at a time. So it was just stuff that you start to notice, and you're not sure why or where it's coming from, but you just kind of get them pulled up and get hooked up and go on to the next location. You don't think about it. Well, we pulled into Washington, into our campground, and we're getting all set up and went to go put the slides out. Now our Schwintex worked fine, of course. Didn't have a problem with those going out. But our center, which is runs off of our, they're all hydraulic, went out about halfway on the kitchen side and stopped. And that was the end of it. There was nothing. There was no going out, no going in. So immediately Steve figured, let me go check those breakers and see if that's where the issue is. Did some testing, found out that in fact there was no power going through that particular breaker, and that likely that was the issue, which started to make us believe it's been an issue. And it also happens to be the hydraulic side of things, which would explain why our hydraulic jacks were going up in increments so slowly for the last month or so of traveling. So with that testing he did, went ahead and found a local parts store. Unfortunately, the biggest breaker I believe that they had was a 30, and it needed a 50. So what he did was he went ahead and purchased, and I'll have to have him get in on this and say if it was a 30 or maybe it was a 40. Went ahead and used something just to see kind of, is that really the culprit, and went ahead and put it in and was able to get the slides to go all the way out. Unfortunately, we then found out there were no 50 amp fuses anywhere in the whole area until like a week out, and we were leaving in 4 days. So trusty old Amazon, and we went ahead and got on Amazon, ordered what we needed, and had them into the campground in 2 days, swapped it out for the right size, which is a 50 amp, and it's been fine since. We've been full-time for 8 years, and you have to be pretty self-reliant you get into situations where, you know, you can't be calling an RV tech. One, it's expensive, especially for something small like, you know, fuses or breakers and those kind of things that you can easily handle if you're safe about it. But sometimes they're a week or two out, and if you're on a schedule to travel and be in another destination, you don't have time to wait a week or two. And we've been quoted times in experiences before, 3 weeks, a month, especially if you're in areas that just don't have a lot of techs to come on out. So we have been getting more knowledgeable about the electrical side of things. We have a really good, basic, I'd say more than basic understanding of electrical, especially on 12-volt side. And we've been learning a lot more in the last year, the more we travel, so that we have the capability of taking care of things on our own. But we did take a seminar also just to kind of get a really good understanding of using our testers and voltmeters and such. And we found that we were using them correctly, but it's interesting just to learn how to use them in all aspects, going from 12 volts, you know, your AC, DC, and how things convert over, and how the system all runs. So I would definitely encourage people to get that basic understanding, and that way, at least, even if you can just test things before you call a tech, if you don't feel comfortable doing the electrical work, you can at least get an understanding and go, yep, this is what it is, I just don't feel comfortable doing it, or you might not have the parts available.
So here's where the breakers live, behind this box. I'll put in where I already took it apart. But the top one will be where the inverter was working. It just was clicking, so it had a little issue to it. Therefore, it wasn't resetting all the way. So it needed to be replaced. The other one for the slide and the jacks are all run by the same hydraulic system. So all that comes through this solenoid right there, and that red wire goes right to this breaker box, and then it'd be that last one directly to the battery. And you see that from the battery is that copper plate that goes across the whole thing, and that creates power throughout the breakers. And then if it's not working on one side, and then it's not, the breaker is actually no good. It gets overheated, gets hot, and it's designed to just stop working, and it'll reset if it's just a little bit of too much voltage or not enough voltage. It'll give a little. But when she was saying that you didn't have to put a 30 amp in there just to get it to work, you just don't want to go and put a over voltage. I don't know if they make more than 50, but if it was a 30 that wasn't working, you don't want to put in a 50 just to see it, make sure it works, because it will overload the system. It's rated for that certain amperage, so you don't want to go too much. So that's pretty much it. Definitely put this in your toolbox. Extra fuses, extra breakers. I did buy 2 50s, and then I bought a 20, a couple of the 30s. And when I did get the 50s, I got it from Amazon, and just bought 2, because you never know what other issues you have down the road. And of course, your voltmeter. Definitely have that in your toolbox.